Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Carl Liebold from the Voice of Freedom. If you want to come in and take your seats, we're about 10 minutes away from starting the show. To our live audience watching online, thank you for getting in early. You should find a few less problems with the video stream in our second show. There were a few earlier. I would ask you folks, please, if you are with mobile phone, please turn your mobile phone off. We are having some Wi-Fi issues, and every one of your phones is dragging on the same Wi-Fi feed we are trying to send everything out on. So if you could please help us by turning your phone off, not putting it on silent because it'll still register on the Wi-Fi network. We need it turned off. That will give us the best chance to get as many people as possible, the best quality picture as possible, so that it doesn't fall over. And we'll be going on in about 5 or 6 minutes.
is the voice of freedom. We are not one voice. We are many. We are your voice. But we can only be effective if you use your voice. Your voice. This is the voice of freedom. We will not hide from the truth. We will ask the hard questions until we are sure we have the truth. Welcome to the voice of freedom, where your voice will never be silenced.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome along to part 3 of the Australia One, well, I guess little tour that we've been having over the last week or so. Part 1 in Melbourne, part 2 in Canberra, and you folks obviously turned out tonight to find out what is in store with part 3. Well, I can give you a little bit of a heads up. Part 3 is all about you, because the secret is with you. Community, love, understanding. It's all coming from you. And I think this evening's presentation will bring that home to you in a number of different ways. And if nothing else, if you can't think of it about you, think of it as something you can do for your kids and your grandkids. Not something you can do. It's something we have to do, isn't it, folks? Because there's too much pain, there's too much suffering, and there will be more to come. Thank God, those of us that are here have our eyes open a little bit. We're all on the same book. We may not be on the same page, but I guarantee the people that you meet here tonight, doesn't matter what page they're on, one that was, you read 2 months ago or one you're yet to read. We are all sharing information. We are all sharing love. We are all forming community. And that is what is impressive for me to see as I've travelled around the country recently. The community's being formed. Melbourne, my God, what they've been through. We all think that we've had a hard time of it. Trust me, we've had nothing compared to what's gone on in Melbourne. And I feel for the people of Melbourne tremendously, the people of Victoria tremendously. Thankfully, we seem to have pushed through that. Now our eyes are slightly more open, and now we are looking to a much bigger, a much brighter, and hopefully a little bit more prosperous future. Is that what we're looking for, folks? Well, I have to tell you, I think there's only one bloke who can help us bring that to happen anytime in the near future. I'm not going to talk anymore. Put your hands together for the man who should be leading this country, Ricardo Bosi.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I know you had nothing else to do. My Kitchen Rules, The Block. Who's seen that new show, The Traitor? Now, isn't that just 2 steps too far satanic for normal viewing? It's not an accident. As Carl said, this is part 3 of the tour. It's been extraordinary. The intention was actually to have the same show 5 times. When we look at the amount of data and information we had to put through, it wasn't going to work, so that's how it worked out this way, so it's quite cool. First of all, I'd like to thank you all, A, for coming out, but B, having the wit to and the sheer courage and determination to withstand the most incredible psychological and physical attack over the last 2-3 years. It has been extraordinary. And you, by virtue of your presence here today, has shown you've got the right stuff. So give yourself and everybody else out there that has done the right thing a big round of applause. Melbourne was interesting. That crowd was, as Carl said, they're in pain. They've been through a lot. And they're very energized. Very energized. They can't wait. And we explained that patience was imperative. This has been an extremely difficult operation. This has been running for 60 years, as you know, some of you, since JFK's death. Entire careers, soldiers have been born, lived, served, and died since this started. It was subterranean up until Trump's arrival, then it poked its head above ground level. And the good news is we're at the end of the end. We are just about here. On Sunday in Melbourne, when I mentioned, and who, just out of curiosity, show of hands, who's seen parts 1 and 2, please? Okay, good. Those of you who haven't, make sure you get online. It makes a whole bunch of sense. There's a document that I covered there, and that was never supposed to get out. We received it months ago, and we didn't run with it until we had verification. That was the Libertina, the little girl and the testing. As soon as that went up, the go order went. That was the trigger. So sit back. You don't have much longer to wait. And when they say nothing can stop what's coming, it's already here. And just by way of expanding on that issue, like you, I've been extremely impatient. I wanted it done yesterday, a month ago, a year ago. Why the hell can't they just do it? How many more kids have to die before somebody acts? What you probably were not aware of is they had 3 courses of action open to them. One was fast, one took a bit more time, and one took a long time. The first fast one was going to cause a civil war. And as you know, a civil war is a wound that never heals. The last one was going to take a long, long time, many more years. And so they went with the best option, compromise between the two. And their choices were basically bad, worse, and absolutely shocking. And so they took the bad one. And understand this, any pain or damage that's been inflicted upon the people has not been the White Hat's job. They have been intentionally trying to stop that which they can, but whilst also at the same time showing you, the people, exactly what the Black Hats intended. For example, the World Health Organization Constitution, which was supposed to be rolled out globally until something like 27 African nations said no. That was the White Hat's way of saying ain't going to happen, but letting you know what they had planned for you. And so any evil that has been done, that's pure Black Hat. And right now, the operation is live, it's underway. And the Masonic filth have a life expectancy of about 3 months. And the Masonic filth, apart from other things, the satanic ritual abuse and the pedophilia is rife. They are protecting it. And people tell me there isn't a cure for pedophilia. Well, there is. And it comes in different doses, 22, 303, 45, 50 cal. And for the police that think that's incitement, no, it's just a suggestion. Okay, let's move on. Now, where are we? There's a fine-looking chap. Let's see what he's got to say. Not much, obviously. Here we go. First things first. Now, this is a question, or this is a conversation you're going to have with a lot of people. Don't ask us how we knew. Ask yourself why you didn't. Now, everybody in this room, obviously, well and truly awake. You did your own research. You considered all the factors. You made a decision. But when they do come at you, make sure you ask them, why didn't you know? But I trusted, oh, there was your mistake. So you used the brain God gave you to make your own decision. And you did that. We made it a couple of years back. We looked at the numbers, we looked at the situation, we knew it was rubbish, and we've been talking about it for a few years, and so have you. The first lesson that the Australian people are going to get out of this is make up your own mind, think for yourself. Trust nobody. Make a decision, own it. If it's right, good. If it's wrong, make a new decision. Every one of us must think for ourselves. Why should I trust you? Don't trust me. Think for yourself. Follow your own instincts. And that's how we learn, and that's how we get going. But that's the first lesson, this one here. How did we know, and how did they not know? Okay, very quickly, just to link up the presentations. Nothing but the truth, part 1, Melbourne. We covered the COVID deceit, confirmed bioweapon deaths and injuries not reported by the Australian media. And they have a special level of culpability, the media. The surveillance state, Chinese Communist Party systems to track people in Australia. Facial recognition, 5G. The police state, the unlawful control of Australian people by the police. Now, we know there are no police in this country. We have corporate security guards. So there literally is no law, and they are nothing but corporate security guards. And they're going to find that out very, very quickly. Organ harvesting. Chinese Communist Party killing the Falun Gong and the Uyghurs. You know it. The people out there don't. Why? Media didn't tell them. They're about to find out. And the legislative tyranny that just flowed over and over again. Cloud seeding legislation, foreign military and police in Australia, aerial spraying of GMOs, social media interference, microchip implants and RFID. Sounds like a list of conspiracies, except for guess what? It's all true. And if you want to find out if something is a conspiracy or not, just see if the fact checkers have said that it's all lies. Bet your bottom dollar it's true. It's as simple as that. We need more conspiracies because we're running out. Humans as lab rats. 3-year-old girl named Libertina tested for pain tolerance, third eye activation suppression, and life threat response and elimination. This is the piece of information that was not supposed to get out. Now, as soon as this hit the streets, and there's more, the testing caused twitching, vocal tics, biting, epiphora, which is crying, vomiting, screaming, harm to examiner, harm to self, misplaced laughter. When that document went out, the Masonic filth went nuts. It was never supposed to get out. And the reason they went nuts is because they know this goes on. And worse. And worse. The satanic ritual abuse. For years they've been telling us it's not true. Well, we know it's been in the media, the print and television media for decades, but then it disappeared. It's out and they went nuts. Part 2 in Canberra. Adrenochrome, apparently another fictitious story, another conspiracy theory. Well, we showed the actual documents from a company that produces it and the name. We showed a photograph, the employee data sheet, who actually does this stuff, and the list of victims / sources of adrenochrome. Now, if a simple soldier like me can get access to this stuff, why isn't the massive media out there? How come they can't? Amazing. Maybe we should have helped them. The criminally culpable silent media. And when I say criminally culpable, I'm talking Nuremberg 2.0 type criminality. Every one of them must pay. Every one. The gay bar loiterer, Zelensky. Who here has seen the leather-clad dance? Now, honestly, please, can someone explain to me why Alan Jones, Paul Murray, Peter Credlin and Andrew Bolt and the entire Australian Bolshevik collective keep referring to this puppet as a president? Why? Because they are knowingly lying to you. They are criminally complicit in a conspiracy to the genocide of every Australian. And some of the ABC are starting to step back. Oh, look, we'll just say sorry and we'll move on. Let's learn from our mistakes. That's right. We should have shot you earlier. And when I say shoot, I mean once they are lawfully arrested, charged, arrested, tried, and then executed for their crimes. Because if anybody thinks I'm a little extreme when I talk capital punishment, wait till the truth comes out. And what you've seen thus far is nothing compared to what is about to come out. Most of, not you lot, because you're awake, the great unwashed out there, they will turn away and I will turn their heads back at the screen and say, you will watch this. Your silence was consent. They will be forced to watch. Child abduction, again, never in any papers, millions of kids every year, disappearing. Where do they go? What are they used for? We know. Why couldn't the media find out? The new International Economic Order, that federal government document, 1980, which proves conclusively that every Prime Minister, every leader of the opposition, every lower house MP and every senator is guilty of treason, selling out this country. Absolutely guilty of treason. And they were, in the document, it actually showed they were used everything at their disposal to generate support. Personalities, agencies, the unions, Everybody was involved. So when I say that the leadership of the polity, the bureaucracy, the judiciary, the constabulary, the military, media, academia, big business, big unions, every church, mosque, synagogue, temple, and lodge are complicit. I mean, they are actively complicit. The tensions and fights, the division that they have set between us for decades, man against woman, child against parent, left versus right, up versus down, the lot, it's all fabricated. Every one of them has been part of this conspiracy, and every one of them will pay. Media personalities like Kyle Sandilands, that bastion of good radio broadcasting, a man amongst men. In fact, by the size of his gut, he's about 3 men. Pity his brain isn't as big. Kyle's recording his own voice, complaining about not being a fit and proper person to have a gaming license or a liquor license or a dog license or something. And yet he was a fit and proper person to, this is his words, con the people into getting the jab. Now, I've been reliably informed that anybody who has advanced this and suggested it was getting paid. I hope it was worth it. I hope it was worth it. Politician Scott Morrison, the jab is as safe as the pill. Agencies, Therapeutic Goods Administration, we showed a letter, Freedom of Information request. Please show one case of COVID in a living human and the testing done to determine that. The answer, that information doesn't exist. This is a lie. They have known it's a lie. They have pursued this and they have destroyed people, companies, businesses, lives, and the nation. This is a war for the world, and they just lost. We're about to win. Somebody doesn't like my next slide. What's going on? There we go. What else don't you know? Lots. A lot. And there's more to come. Klaus Schwab, World Economic Forum. The video showed admitting he controls everything that I mentioned earlier. Everything. The unions particularly, they're up to their necks in it. They are not there to protect the workers. They are not there to protect the workers and haven't been for decades. Yuval Noah Harari. Yeah, there's a name that seems to resonate with a lot of people. Good old Yuval. If you want to know what a sociopath, psychopath sounds like, just listen to that guy for 30 seconds. His suggestion was, because you're all useless eaters. What do? Wow, drugs and games. Drugs and games. That's all you're good for, folks. Drugs and games. Have you seen that game online? I've never played it, but I've seen the ad called Eve. Anybody seen Eve? It's a space colonization exploration game. It's like you're Captain Kirk in charge of the USS Enterprise, and you get to fly around space and colonize, create alliances, have wars. And the graphics and the gameplay are exquisite. This must have cost millions and millions and millions to develop, and yet it's free to play online. Why do you think that is? They have convinced countless people around the planet to live this fake life in this fake universe where they get to be heroic. And these are the smarter ones, because this is not a simple game to play. So they actually manage to distract smart people into this fake world while the real world out there is passing them by. It's not an accident. The opioid crisis in the United States, not an accident. It's the Opium War 2.0 from China, courtesy of China. Drugs in Australia. Do you think that they really can't win the drug war? How many times have you heard that? Oh, we tried to win the drug war, but we can't. Let's just legalize it all. That's because the drugs and the drug dealers and the organizations have a direct line to the Premier's department in every state. Now, I'm not suggesting the Premiers are corrupt. I'm sure they're good, fine, upstanding servants of the public trying to do a good job in a bad situation. The 'Ndrangheta, which is the Calabrian mafia, are a global drug syndicate. But it's actually more than drugs, because why grow drugs and produce them and then ship it and all the logistics? It's no good. It's too hard. I've got an idea, says the local Calabrians, which make the Sicilian mafia look like choir boys. How about we control the unions and therefore the industry-based super funds and scoop off hundreds of millions of dollars every year? And that's what they do. And the unionists keep going on strike for an extra $2.75 an hour, like the Transport Workers Union did, instead of shutting down the state like they could have done with the truckers' strike. What did the TWU leadership do? $2.75 extra an hour, fellas. She'll be Jake. The unionists have to pull their heads out of their asses and wake up, because you're all out of a job, courtesy of your leadership. What's your leadership doing about AI? Zero, bupkis, nothing, nada, squat. And for the real thickos out there, that means nothing. The unions have to wake up, sack their leadership and start from scratch. And if you hear anybody say we need a super union that controls the lot, get rid of them. Unions better wake up, folks. You're all out of a freaking job. What else don't you know?
Hello, darkest MSM. I've come to face you once again, because the horror steadily streaming grew seeds of fear while I was sleeping, and the nightmares you planted in my brain were sustained when you sighed the science. In quarantine I walked alone down the halls of my own home, in the halo of a hazel comb. I wore a mask 'cause I was in their throne, and my mind was stabbed with the thought of its own free will. I tried until I understood the science, and on the evening news I saw 10 million people, maybe more. People shouting without thinking, people aping without listening, people spewing hate that famous voices share, but no one dared disturb the sound of silence. Who said you do not know that silence like a cancer grows? Learn the science that might teach you. Do the math that it might reach you. But my words, like silent raindrops fell, and echo in the wells of pseudoscience. And the people bow and pray to the COVID God they made. And the science shouted its warning in the findings that it was for me. And I found that the words of the prophets are written in substack mail and liturgy and echoes against the silence.
When I said at the beginning you should be proud of yourselves, I meant that quite deeply and sincerely. You have withstood an assault without precedent in global history, and yet you've all got the wit and courage to do what you did. You really do. And that qualifies you to move forward into the future with a leadership role, whether you know it or like it, know it or not, or like it or not, because there's only a handful of you. But the good news is there's more than you think. We said some time ago that it was nowhere near the 60, 70, 80, 90% that they were claiming got the jab. And we were saying, lucky to hit 40% if, you know, on a good reading of the numbers. And of course we were lampooned. But guess what's come out recently? It's about 40%, which means a whole lot more of us that didn't get the jab. So we're still in the majority. We can still take this country back and do it well. As part of the Australian-wide community service announcements, a Kia Cerato has listed its lights on. DQQ 96 uniform, Delta Quebec 96 uniform. If that's your car, please go outside and turn the lights off. I see movement about halfway down the room. Now she's too embarrassed to get up. Give her a big cheer. Okay. You ever wonder what it was like to be in World War II? An entire world at war, not knowing who was who? You've just lived through it, except you had it harder in the sense that it was all a lie. It was a dirty war, it was a coward's war, it was total war. And you had your own government doing it to you.
28 pedophiles on the Wood Royal Commission.
Sorry.
Are you doing a research into that? Is anybody investigating that? Anthony Albanese?
How about the Wood Royal Commission?
Yeah, the Wood Royal Commission.
How about the Wood Royal Commission?
We don't like having pedophiles running our country.
A lot of pollies are claiming they're now part of the freedom movement. A lot of the freedom movement are claiming they're part of the freedom movement. End the mandates, that's all we have to worry about. And what were we saying back then? No, it's more than the mandates, get rid of all of them. Because all you have to do is ask any politician, any freedom movement player, any of them, ask them about the 90-year suppression order for the 28 VIP pedophiles in Canberra. Ask them about the Mulligan inquiry, which imposed an 80-year suppression order in South Australia. Ask them about the in excess of 40 suppression orders nationwide. Watch them run. Because the freedom movement has been penetrated by the Masonic filth from the get-go. From the get-go. There's only one guy that I trusted, he and his wife, that's Dave Graham and Mel. We've watched each other. Give them a round of applause. Because Dave and his beautiful wife Mel and myself and Rhiannon, we watched each other carefully because you couldn't trust anybody, but those two we trust because they are straight. They have one interest, and that's the good of the Australian people. That's all they care about. Everybody else has been revealed and will continue to be revealed. But if you're not sure, just ask them to go publicly online, and they won't do it because they're part of it. Anybody that's on the MSN, anybody that's got money to get out there is bought and paid for. Did you see that on Sky News at all? No? Alan Jones, Andrew Bolt, Peter Credlin, Cashed Up Bogan, Paul Murray. Did you see it on the ABC? Ida Buttrose draw that to your attention, did she? No, of course not. Of course not.
Million people who are receiving those free government-issued at-home COVID tests. The extraction tube in many of the kits includes a chemical that can be harmful or even deadly. It's colorless, tasteless, odorless. It's a powder that's found in things like airbags and pest control solutions. Maya Belay from our Cleveland station checks in with Poison Control for a look at the potential dangers.
Ohio poison control centers are sounding the alarm surrounding a liquid substance called sodium azide, found in some at-home COVID testing kits that could be toxic to children as well as adults if used incorrectly.
Our toxicology community has been both surprised that this was the ingredient in some of the kits and also concerned. We have seen exposures in all age groups.
The Drug and Poison Information Center at Cincinnati Children's Hospital reports an increase in calls to their hotline related to accidental exposure to the substance. So far, nearly 40 exposures were reported there, and the problem is nationwide.
We are one of 55 poison control centers, and nationwide, other poison centers have been reporting a similar finding, and there have been more than a couple of hundred exposures nationwide to sodium azide in test kits.
Doctors advise parents to keep the kids out of reach of children, and when testing children for COVID at home, to make sure they are supervised in order to avoid any adverse side effects from exposure.
Sodium azide can be toxic to humans, to animals, and things that it can cause that we would want to look out for would be like low blood pressure, weakness, fatigue, people passing out.
If an accident occurs, call the nearest poison control center.
The dose makes the poison, and the dose of sodium azide in these kits is very small, and the exposures that we have seen has been a small amount of that.
Experts say following instructions is key. Some adults actually end up using the potentially harmful substance to swab their nose because they didn't follow directions. Nicole?
That's going to shock a few people. Oh, I didn't get the COVID, but I took the rat. Sorry, folks. Again, that was discoverable if you did your research. There was also the rats that had pre-marked positive, negative. Who saw those? There you go. Funny. Media couldn't find it. Maybe we should pass the hat around and get a white cane and a seeing eye dog for the mainstream media.
Had 3 different positions. He was the head of Washington, D.C. Masonry, he was the head of American Masonry, and he was the head of World Masonry. Albert Pike wrote the book Morals and Dogma. It was published in 1871 and is used in all Scottish Rite initiations to explain the crass philosophy. It's been called the most important book of Freemasonry. It's been called the Bible of Freemasonry, and it's given to every 4th degree Mason, this book. And it's also recommended in every issue of the Scottish Rite Journal. Each month it recommends to get and read Morals and Dogma. Albert Pike says in Morals and Dogma, quote, "The Mason is familiar with the doctrine that the Supreme Being is a center of light." Now, what is this light that the Masons are talking about? The answer can be found on page 321 of Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike. Quote, "Lucifer, the light bearer. Lucifer, the son of the morning. Is it he who bears the light? Doubt it not," end quote. And on page 324, he repeats the thought. He says, quote, "A devil, the fallen Lucifer, or light bearer." He identifies Lucifer as being the devil. And of course, St. Paul says in 2 Corinthians 11:14, the devil will transform himself as an angel of light. So the New Agers believe the same thing as the Masons. David Spangler, a leading New Ager, wrote, quote, "The light comes from Lucifer. He is the light bearer," end quote. And many people say, many Masons even say, Freemasonry is not a religion. It's not a religion. It is a religion. Albert Pike said on page 213 of Morals and Dogma, quote, "Every Masonic lodge is a temple of religion, and its teachings are instruction in religion," end quote. Some more information from Albert Pike. On July the 14th, 1889, Albert Pike issued formal written instructions to the 23 Supreme Councils of the world. He said, quote, "To you, sovereign grand inspectors general, we say this, that you may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd, 31st, and 30th degree. The Masonic religion should be, by all of us initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. Yes, Lucifer is God, and the true and pure religion is the belief in Lucifer, end quote.
No, it's just a gentleman's club for advancing your business, that's all. Bit of a networking group, hardly a challenge. But before you can join, of course, you have to take these ridiculous oaths in which you promise to forfeit your life if you ever betray another Mason. No contract I've ever seen is worth that. So the Masonic filth is one of our major targets because they are the means by which the world is controlled. There's lots of layers above them. Masons think they're top dog. Even the royal families of the globe are somebody else's bitches, as it was described to me. Every king and queen and prince and princess on Women's Day and the rest of it, they bow and scrape to the people above them and the people above them and the people above them, and it just goes up and up and up. And so to all those Masons out there, and here's the good news, the Masonic system is fracturing. I was used to saying that there is a chasm splitting it. It's fracturing. They're now ratting on each other. They're actually dobbing each other in. And that's what's happening. So even the low-level ones, you'll be held to account. They will be held to account. They will pay. The higher-level ones, they've already been taken out. The very high ones, they're gone. The first ones started going at the end of last year. Do you remember last year when I said you've got till the end of October to make a deal? And then everybody expected arrests on the 1st of November? Well, you didn't see them. But for the last 12 months, bit by bit, they've been chipping away because it's a long, arduous, slow forensic process doing it to make sure you get them all. And now you've got nothing left but lower order Masons. They know they're bad. Don't think for a second they don't know what's going on. They know exactly what's going on. And they're all going to go. Every last one. In Melbourne, we got intelligence of, and they attempted it, they had an attempt on me and the family, the Masonic filth in the Vic poll. And this isn't the first time this has happened, and we haven't made song and dance about it because, let's just face it, my protection's better than theirs. But they've hit us several times over the last 18 months in various ways. They've thrown their best at us, and guess what? Didn't work. And so they tried again in Melbourne. They tried again in Canberra, targeting the girls. Didn't work. And it actually occurred to us, and we had a discussion, should we put the girls off to one side and sort of lock them in a room, keep them safe? And I thought, my wife and I discussed, and we both woke up at 4 o'clock this morning and went, nah. Do your worst. Come at me, you Masonic filth. Because any organisation or individual that spends its time, just put your fingers in your ears, please, girls. Raping and killing babies. Okay, you can go. They've heard this at home. They are so grown up. It's all right, you can stop now. You think they're man enough to face up to someone who can handle himself? And I've made the offer. Come on. Commissioner of Federal Police, you Masonic piece of slime. Put down your badge, put down your gun. Let's go 15 rounds. It won't last 15 rounds, though. The people won't get their money's worth, so don't charge too much. That goes for every copper in this freaking country, because you're not cops. You're Masonic filth. Every last one of you. And best you be polite next time you come to my door, because I'm being very, very impatient with you, because I've come around 4 or 5 times now. Game's over there, done. The Masons are done. And for the lower order ones who are saying, but we didn't know, tough. They wanted to advance their business and their future based on membership, not merit. That's why you didn't get the job. That's why you didn't get the contract. That's why there's some imbecile running the show. And if you complained, oh no, you got bitch slapped. You should only advance on merit, not membership to a club, not your skin color, not your religion. No, merit. That's what should drive everything. And so even you low-level Masons, your life is over, it's done. And when the NSA says they have everything, they have everything. including every name of every Mason in this country. So enjoy your last few months on Earth, guys. Our intention. Now, you know what Australia One's intention is. I've said it over and over and over again. This is critical. It's key. This is what decides a large, complex strategy, and everything we do must fit into it. And if it varies from it to the least degree, it's not included. But let's just quickly go through it. You've heard me say it 100 times. Purpose: to save Australia. And it's nice to see the Americans copying us and save America. Have you seen the little poster? I'm happy to share. I'm a generous kind of guy. The method: create a moral political party that empowers Australians to reach their highest individual potential so collectively we can all participate in the reformation of Australia. It's the only way we can save this country and get it to the point where this never happens again. We're not interested in a top-down solution. We're interested in 25.69 million Australians stepping up and going, you know what? I'd like to have a shot at this sovereignty thing. It sounds good to me. And every one of you, that's the point. Every single one of you is equal. I love it. It's so cool. And unfortunately, that word sovereignty gets the blankest stares from most groups, not this group, obviously. What do you mean? You're sovereign. What does that mean? All political power comes from you. Really? Yes. You are equal to the person next to you, the billionaire and the beggar in the street. You, by virtue of your humanity, have equal rights and equal say in the future. And when Australia gets that, I mean really gets it, it's going to be brilliant. It's going to be a bugger of a place to govern because you're all going to get bolshy, aren't you? And that's a good thing. That's the way a free people should be. Because we've been told the pyramid is, there's one at the top, a big base at the bottom. They've got a completely wrong one. You've got the people up here, and you've got a Prime Minister down there saying, okay, whatever you want. How does that sound? And the end state. Australia is a moral, sovereign, self-reliant Christian Western democracy which is economically powerful, militarily intimidating, politically free, culturally vibrant, and socially cohesive. And again, that's a to-do list. This is the best of military planning smashed into political purposes. This is something that we have to achieve. Now, what qualities and skills would you demand of a leader to deliver all of this? Now, who the hell am I? What presumption on my part to stand here and say, I can do this for you. I'm just a busted ass lieutenant colonel, didn't even make general. So tell me, what skills would you demand of me? And press me. Tell me, what should a leader have to deliver all of that? Just shout it out from the floor. Integrity, what else? Honesty, proof, truth, responsibility, accountability, what else? Come on. That's easy shit. Come on, let's go. Compassion, courage. Okay, can you hear all those really good ideas flying around the room? Would you be happy if somebody delivered that for you? Great, guess what? This is what's going to be demanded of you. Every one of you has to now become a leader because we can only save this country if we marshal all the talents of every 25.69 million of us. And it's going to be demanded of you by your children, your grandchildren, by your friends, your neighbours and your fellow Australians. Every one of us now must step up and be a leader in a real sense, not in the sense of those chief executives when I was doing some consulting. Not that I get many jobs these days, that's for sure. Once you go politics, nobody's interested. 8 chief executives, each of their companies had a market capitalisation of several $100 million, so $1 billion in the room. And I said to them, if I took away your title and your position and all your authority, how many people would follow you if you said, follow me? They shuffled uncomfortably in their chairs. Because whatever they were doing wasn't leadership, it was just the lawful execution of their legal authority, that's all. Anybody can do that, and if you get high enough in business, they don't even care about that. You're the golden handcuffs. Stay, we'll pay you a lot. leave and it'll cost you. And that's how they wear you down. And you find yourself doing things you didn't want to do. I hope they enjoyed the money. So that's what we have to do. Every one of us, ladies and gentlemen, by virtue of the fact that you are here, you said no to the injection. You withstood the psychological and physical pressure, and you've done well. And no good deed goes unpunished, because now it's you that's going to lead the nation from now on. Every single one of you. Now, to different degrees, I get that. I'm telling you, you don't need 25.69 million Ricardo Bozis. No. Like Vegemite, a little bit goes a long way. Too much, not so good. So even if you're just making the Lamingtons, it's okay. But everybody, and guess what? You don't get off scot-free. Because if you've got kids, who's going to lead them? You. And guess what? Australians don't even believe that anymore. Speaking to a basketball coach in Melbourne, and he said he's got 14-year-old boys that can't tie their shoelaces. And when he speaks to the parents say, guess what? Oh, that's your job. Believe it or not. So we've got a hell of a job ahead of us, folks. We're not just saving a country, we're rebuilding the civilization. And civilizations don't create good people. Good people create civilizations. Does that make sense? It starts and ends with you. If you do your job, great. If you don't, it's over. And as a parent, I can tell you there's no prouder moment when you look at a son or a daughter and you've raised them to honourable manhood and honourable womanhood, and you send them on their way and you go, wow, how cool is that? The map is accurate, the compass is calibrated, they're okay. They're going to run aground a couple of times, that happens. But you know they're going to be fine. And that's the idea we've got to get into every parent in this country. Kids first, kids first, kids first. And if you don't put the kids first, it doesn't matter what else comes second. It doesn't matter how old the kids are. Imagine the end state, but let's translate it from the nation to the people, an individual person. Imagine this. Every individual Australian is moral. Now, what's moral mean? Oh, it's a woolly one, isn't it? No, I like hard definitions. And my definition of a moral people is a group who have agreed on what's right and wrong, an agreed morality, not a common morality, because a common morality has the lowest possible standards. An agreed morality can encompass the loftiest of ideals. A group of people, a political grouping, let's say, who have agreed on right and wrong, and then think, speak, and act to advance the right and eradicate the wrong. Morality has an action component to it. You want proof? No problem. Imagine you're in your back garden having a barbecue. You see the next door neighbour raping his 3-year-old child. Now, would it be moral if you looked across and went, okay, I'll just wander over here? Is that a moral person? No. Absolutely not. Action is required. Silence is consent. Inaction is consent. You are guilty. You are guilty. Now, a moral person, imagine every Australian is moral. Every Australian is sovereign. They know that the political power derives from them and they're not afraid to use it. Every Australian is self-reliant. Can you imagine that? Every Australian is self-reliant. Brilliant. Centrelink, out of a job. Everyone contributes to this, understands and contributes to this Christian Western democracy. It doesn't mean they're Christians, that's not the point. But they understand how the Christian Western democratic ideals are the foundation of every successful country on this planet. And if you don't believe me, go live in the Middle East, go live in Southeast Asia for an extended period of time. Swinging through Bali for a week doesn't constitute seeing another country. You live and work there for 5 years, then tell me what country you're going to come back to. Imagine every individual is economically powerful. Economically powerful. Doesn't need a gift from government, because it's not a gift from government, it's a gift from somebody else who's doing well and you're sucking off their teat. That's not necessary. That's by design. We now have more tax takers than tax payers. Think about it. We're on a road to hell. Imagine every individual able to protect themselves and their family. I like that one a lot. That's the US Second Amendment, if you're not sure what that means. Now, for those of you who think that gun nuts are going to cause mass murders, in the United States, the figures are unequivocal. The states and cities with the constitutionally guaranteed rights to bear arms are the safest. The murder rape rate is near zero. Even the cities and states where they have open carry. You walk into a bar and there's a guy with a 6-shooter on his hip. It's a very polite town. And the gun deaths are all in the cities that have been controlled by the Democrats for 50, 60 years and have the strongest gun laws. That's where all the gun deaths occur. Now, if you take out those cities, America's down the bottom of a country of 150 countries with gun deaths. But you've been persuaded it's the other way around. It's a lie. Check out the numbers for yourself. In the state of Maine, they allowed the constitutional right to bear arms. The rape and murder rate dropped to zero. I'm a big fan of women's rights, and nothing makes a woman more equal than a 357. Think about it. You want to walk down the street confident you won't be bothered? If you want to see swagger, swagger. When someone swaggers, they've got that real sort of, yeah, you can't touch me. If you want to ever see that, go to a pistol club, strap it on your hip. You'll just do it naturally. Guarantee it. Okay. Politically free people. You can't be touched. The government has no right to know what you're doing, who you're doing it with, where you're doing it, none of their bloody business. It is your country, you are sovereign. Okay? Repeat that word over and over again. You are sovereign. You are politically free. You can say what you like, you can think what you like. You can even do what you like as long as it doesn't impact on the rights of others. You are free and they have no right to pester you. You are sovereign. Accepting of other cultures. We're already there. We're one of the most accepting countries on the planet. We've been persuaded we're nasty whiteys that hate anything that doesn't look like us. Well, put me in the sun for a week, I'm black as the ace of spades. But in Australia, we don't care. But if you're born in Malaysia, of the wrong ethnic background, you can't go to university there. What? That's right. Most of the world is horribly institutionally racist. We are not. We are open to everybody as long as you behave yourself. Don't behave yourself, you're in big trouble. And in relation to that, freedom of religion, absolutely. You are free to bow your mind, your heart and your soul to any God you like. But your behaviour must be consistent with Australian secular law. Does that make sense? This nonsense that, oh, in my religion we do this. Really? Female genital mutilation? No thanks, you go straight to jail. In my religion, that's considered an untouchable. Sorry, we don't have that either. Straight to jail. Who's heard about sati? Okay, historically, this is really interesting because people look at me and go, you can't interfere with people's religions. I go, I beg to differ. General Napier, one of my heroes. India, the Raj, General Napier. There's a tradition called sati in which the wife of a now deceased husband, he's died, left the widow, she's required to throw herself on his funeral pyre, alive. You get that? Ladies, you happy with that? No, because your husband's just carked it, you're going, woohoo! Not that simple. Onto the fire you go. Anyway, General Napier got wind of this and went, hang on a minute, this isn't too sharp. And in fact, even one of the Indian reformers was big on trying to shut this cultural practice of sati down. And it's been going on for 2,000 years. And the Hindu priest came up and said, you can't do that. We have a culture. And General Napier replied thus, you have a culture, so do we. You burn your widows. When men do that, we erect a gibbet. We erect giblets and hang them and take their property. So you live according to your culture and we'll live according to ours. Way you go. Settee stopped pretty quickly after that. So we have every right, and that's just an example of how it works, but we have every right to tell people in this country, you follow Australian secular law. I don't care whether you're Christian, Jew, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, atheist, whatever. You have no right to interfere with the rights of others. And if you're interested, the rights of others begin at conception, not at the point of birth, where in Australia it is legal to kill a baby. And a person whose behaviour strengthens our social cohesion. So imagine that. Listen to this. We have every individual Australian that is now moving in that direction. How cool would that be? What sort of a nation would that be? Just extraordinary. Hey, even the baby's keen. Woohoo! And that's who we're doing it for, folks, right there. Yep, that's her. We're going to create for her the most amazing nation this planet has ever seen. Okay, how do we achieve this? That's great. Oh man, big words, easy. It's so easy to do this. No, it's not. This is tough stuff. Here we go. How do we achieve all of this? Real leadership. That's it, real leadership, not manipulation, not deception, not tricks, not payoffs, real leadership. As exercised by all of you, we're going to harness, as I said, the talents of 25.69 million Australians. And all of us together, we do this. Real leadership at every level of Australian society. Every level, starting at the family. Mum and dad, you provide the leadership to your kids. In the community, in your local area, in your region, in your state, and across the country. The answer lies with each and every one of you taking charge of your lives and your local area. Forget top-down, this is bottom-up, the only way we can save Australia and make sure this never happens again. Because this only happened because we didn't have it, and we've got to change. Real leadership defined. Now, this is a definition I came up with because I was unsatisfied with everything else. And this is tough. I can tell you, having written the book, I had to live the book. And this is hard work. But if you get this right, you'll become someone you've never been before. You'll do things you've never done before. You'll become the most extraordinary person. A real leader is one who, using but nothing but what they are, unites many to achieve good. Stick it on your bathroom mirror. Remind yourself every morning, you are required to do this. If you have children, you are required to do this. If you have any responsibility at work, you are required to do this. If you want to save your country, we are required to do this. Now, what's the purpose of real leadership? I'll give you a two-word answer. What's the purpose of all this? Why is he banging on about leadership? Why can't we go home? Anybody? What's that? Inspire people. They said fire people. Donald Trump. Let's go through it really quickly. You ready? The purpose of real leadership is to win. Is to win. Think about it. Why would you put someone in charge? To win. But let's be sophisticated about how we define winning, okay? But you must win. Not excuses, not I'll try better next time. You need success in every endeavour. You can't say to your kids after they reach their 18th birthday saying, oh, sorry, I messed up your childhood, let's start again. The damage is done. You need results. You need the right results on time. So let's go through it. Winning can be defined in many ways. Parents raising children who choose chastity rather than promiscuity, moderation rather than indulgence, generosity rather than greed, diligence rather than laziness, patience rather than anger, kindness rather than envy, humility rather than arrogance, and honesty rather than deception. Can you imagine looking back as your kids leave home, knowing that that describes them? How cool would that be? And there'd be no shortage of suitors after them, correct? But you want to make sure you get the right ones. Let's define it again. A coach training a team who chooses mastery of skills rather than reliance on natural talent, Commitment to the team rather than individual glory. Constant improvement rather than self-satisfaction. Internal motivations rather than external rewards. Mental toughness rather than the urge to quit. Physical robustness rather than weakness. Come on, you can do it. Emotional resistance rather than self-pity. And fair play rather than cheating. It's not whether you win, it's how you played the game. Because a coach that produced a team like that by any mature metric is an absolute winning coach. Does that make sense? Because it doesn't matter if you lose the game, it's how you played, what you learned from the experience. For those of you who believe, do you think the Almighty cares whether you win or not on the scoreboard? No. It's how you play the game. And losing is a salutary experience. You've got to learn to lose. Having lost in one, I can tell you winning is a lot more fun though. An entrepreneur creating a company which chooses excellence rather than mediocrity, imagination rather than imitation, encouragement rather than discouragement, empowerment rather than exploitation, collaboration rather than subversion, results rather than excuses, loyalty rather than selling out, and integrity rather than corruption. Now there's a company. And when I consult to companies, some of the more short-sighted entrepreneurs look at me like I've got rocks in my head and say, mate, it's about the money, it's about the money. You've got to pay the salary, you've got to pay the rent, you've got to pay the lease. Come on, it's got to be about the money. Where's the money bit? And I say, well, your target's the money. He said, yes. I said, no. The money is a result of hitting the target. You've got to work out what your target is. And all of a sudden, the penny drops and they realize, that's why I'm still broke after 5 years. Because he's chasing the short-term dollar. Money, this is in a business sense, is the result of hitting the target. What you're going to spend your time focusing on, what is the target? And no, I'm not doing a cue. Oh, my tease. So where do you start? Where are we going to start all of this? Because this is now your job. I told you, you've got the job whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not, whether you're a hairdresser, a used car salesman, doesn't matter. You've got the job. All of you. Wherever you are. The first thing you do is accept where you are is where you are. Don't look back, don't regret. If only I could have, I should have, I maybe. And I'm guilty of this. I'm terrible. I'll sit there and just staring into space and I go, oh, damn. And my lovely bride says, what's wrong? Oh, I just remembered back in 85 when I did something stupid. Anybody else do that? Oh, man, I've got some regrets. I just still cringe. Oh, let it go. The trouble is, you see, if you don't let it go, you end up with this baggage train of misery behind you of all the things you did wrong. And eventually you just got to cut it away. Anybody know what it's called when you fire an arrow in archery and miss the target? Anyone know what it's called? A sin. Did you know that? What do you do when you miss the target in archery? You loose another arrow and you keep doing it till you hit the target. You got it? So everything you've done, even the really dumb stuff, cut it away, let it go, move on. You learnt the lesson. Case in point. And most of you know the answer to this, so I don't have to repeat myself. But why? I was asked, why did I never become a Mason? Who remembers my answer to that question? For those that don't know the answer, I had an affair with a senior officer's wife and they put my name on the blacklist. Best mistake ever. That makes sense? Not proud of it, but the universe in its own amazing way. Whew, very lucky. Okay. So start wherever you are and don't worry about the past. Don't worry about what you could have done. When Beethoven was my age, he'd already been dead 5 years. But remember, your ancestors' achievements are not your achievements. Their failures are not your failures. You must make your own life. We all start from zero. Now, I understand, and that's from, come on, you can do it. Go on. Commendatore Luigi Bossi, my great uncle. Hard man. Extremely. And Commendatore is like a knight commander in the Italian system, Order of Merit. Hard man. And the reason he told me that was, I said, because he'd actually had the family tree and researched the family tree in Italy, and it went back a long way. And I just couldn't wait to see it because I was 16 when I first met him, and I thought, this will be fun just to know where I came from. And he looked at me with that face like granite and went, no. And he said that. And I thought, you bastard. Because my family came to Australia 51, well, mum and dad came 51 as kids. I was born in 1960. And they were literally those, old cardboard boxes with nothing in it. They came with nothing. So there's no physical history. So my roots are Australian as you can get. This country gave me everything. That's why I love it so much. There's no past. But that's important. Make your own life. Everybody starts from zero. Everybody. You and I together will lead Australia. We will, all of us. We have to. And whether we get into Parliament or not is not the point. This continues whether we get elected or not. Because as I've told you many times, this isn't about getting elected to Parliament. That's a means to an end. The end is to save the country. And as you know, we've got many other ways to do it. But together, you and I will save this country. We will lead this country. We're going to lead against the mob because a lie doesn't become the truth, wrong doesn't become right, evil doesn't become good just because it's accepted by the majority. And that was said by Booker T. Washington. He was born a slave in the US. He lived amongst the animals. He didn't know what day, month or year he was born. He didn't know his father. He was fed with the animals. They just threw him scraps. Eventually he got old enough. He started working in a sulfur mine, saved up money, taught himself how to read, continued to work, continued to save money, got himself a university education. This is the 1800s, folks. They talk about bad start in life. Fast track this young man. He ended up an advisor to US presidents and the leaders of Black Americans. And his view was, Black Americans get to work, create wealth. That's what he said. Get to work and create wealth. And he said, what should we do with the blacks? Nothing. Let them get to work, create wealth, and make their own future. What a hell of an accomplishment from a little boy slave. So if you've got complaints, and there are some of you out there with some real horrific stories in the past, and I'll give you a pass, but most of us, I don't think our beginning was quite that tough. So we really don't have any excuse. Okay, now we're going to go through the 5 pillars of real leadership, because this is how. I've given you nice highfalutin words, and that's easy. And if I walked off now, you go, oh God, not another one. How about some hard practical steps? What do we got to do? Well, let's go through it. The 5 pillars of real leadership. The foundation is trust. That's the slab you put down. And the pillars that go on that slab, your character, your capability, your invention, their empowerment, and you. And people say, well, what goes on top of that? I've got a slab, I've got the pillars. What goes on top? A life, a family, a company, a nation, whatever you want. The principles are identical. Let's go through them. The foundation is trust. Definition: trust, the assured reliance that what was promised will be. If someone doesn't promise you something, don't be disappointed when they don't deliver, because we assume too much. Oh, I assumed you'd do that. Don't believe me? Get married. I thought that... I learned the hard way, married 3 times. Ooh. Slow learner. The answer, ladies, is a bigger stick. Ask my wife. She beats me regularly. Components of trust. Be honest in thought, word, and deed. Easy to say, hard to do, but it pays off. And I'm not talking about that, does my bum look in this, big in this? There's no right answer to that question. But every hedge is weight in your backpack. You got no idea how light my backpack is, because you know what? It's okay. Just drop it. Move on. Be honest. Be competent. Results to the required standard. Results to the required standard. Know your job. There's an old special forces saying, an amateur practices till they get it right. A professional practices till he can't get it wrong. That's why SF for SF. Be consistent, be predictable, act in a predictable manner over time. Now, you're allowed to have your moments. I get it. I have more than my fair share. But over time, make sure you're predictable in what you do. So you're reliable. They trust you. Does that make sense? Be measured, calm, deliberate, and firm. And just be that most of the time. Once again, you're allowed to have your spit, but be calm, measured, and firm. And be loyal. Protect what is worthy. Now, blind loyalty is the wisdom of fools. Don't do it. And don't be loyal to people, not because they're bad, because they're unreliable. They get tired, they get drunk, they have a baby, they don't have a baby. Life happens. They get a job, they lose a job, they're all over the place. Be loyal to an ideal. That's why people, when they ask me, why should I trust you? I say, don't. Don't trust me. Don't trust A1. Trust the dream. Go for the dream. And the moment we deviate from that dream, from that vision, cut us loose and go off somewhere else, but keep that, be loyal to that vision that we have. As soon as you trust yourself, you will know how to live. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, writer, natural philosopher, diplomat, and civil servant. As soon as you trust yourself, you will know how to live. It's brilliant. You trust yourself. When you truly trust yourself, you can step forward with confidence into the unknown without a care in the world because you trust yourself. Whatever happens, as Marcus Aurelius says, you'll make it through like you did yesterday and the day before. Don't let the future disturb you. You will get through. You'll find yourself over here and everyone's down there and you're saying, come on. And they go, no. First pillar, your character. Keyword, courage. Why is courage the first word of character? Isn't it being nice? Isn't it picking up their papers and putting them in the bin? Your character? Nope. That's Aristotle. The man who was described as the man who knew everything. Because when he turned up, philosophy, the study of philosophy, which is the study of love of life and knowledge, was so messy, he tidied up the whole thing. Courage. Because that guarantees all the other virtues. That's first. Now that challenges people, but I'll help you how to find as much courage. Who here would like infinite courage, 24/7, on call, on demand, whenever you needed it, please? Hands up. Well, the rest of you okay, are you? Well, Mike Tyson's outside. He wants to go a couple of rounds with you. Okay. Definition. Character is the physical, emotional, mental, psychological, and spiritual virtues distinguishing one from another. And you've got to have them all. I'm not saying the physical side, for example. When you're physically fit and strong and reasonably agile, it just gives you more confidence, which affects everything else, and it starts to build that character. You're more likely to step up and say, excuse me, sir, could you pick up that piece of paper because you dropped it and you're a bad example to my daughters. And I don't know why people always do it when I ask them. It's got nothing to do that I'm... Maybe. But there's a great story of a guy. he was in Thailand, maybe. I can't remember. You might know the story. Where a gentleman threw his cigarette butt on the ground and a Thai gentleman picked it up and gave him and said, excuse me, sir, you dropped this. Courage. Components of character. Now, 4 virtues. Real leadership demands 4 virtues. The first is courage. You act in the face of fear. You act in the face of fear. Wisdom. You apply knowledge and experience with common sense and insight. The older you are, the more you've got. Faith. You believe in the absence of evidence and act on that belief. That's what A1 is. We had the election where Cory Bernardi didn't do very well. He disbanded the party. 5 of us are sitting in a kitchen. We said, what are we going to do? Well, there's still a fight to be had. But you wouldn't pick those 5 people to start a political party because none of us knew anything about anything. And yet here we are. We had faith in ourselves and we acted on that belief. And now Australia One is an internationally recognised force for good in the world. We are better known and have more followers in the United States than we have in Australia. We've got fans in Ireland, Poland, Thailand, Philippines, where else? Scotland. Romania, Serbia, lots in Serbia. That's because I'm part Serb, so that's required. And love. Courage, wisdom, faith, love, you create and a desire to give. Now, I used to have a contract with New South Wales Police Service many, many years ago, 2007. When I got to this slide, you can almost hear him in the back, love, there's a bunch of commissioned officers, 45 hardened New South Wales commissioned officers. Show us the love. And I said to them exactly what I said to you. I asked you, who here would like to have an infinite amount of courage on call 24/7? They sort of went, oh, yeah, I suppose, maybe. Right. Some of you may have heard this story before. If you have, watch it again. It's fun. I want you to imagine I'm standing on a 10-story building, 100 feet drop, straight down. It's about 10 foot wide, and there's another 10-story building right there. I'm standing here, and you are right there. Then I get a plank, and I drop the plank, and I securely attach it to this side and that side, so it can't wobble. It's very solid, but it's only about that wide. And I say to you, courage. I want you to walk the plank and get to the other side, do a U-turn and come back. Who here would do that just for the hell of it? Show of hands, please. Yep, a couple of lunatics like me who just do it, including my daughter. That's very good to see. But most of you are smarter than me, and you've done a quick risk analysis and gone, consequence of error high, benefit low. I'm not doing that. And I say, come on, gird your loins. Prove to me you're a real man, a real woman. And you sort of might give it this. And you get to the other side. And then I say, okay, turn around, come back. And you go, no, I'm going down the stairs, thanks. Is that an act of courage? Of course it is. You've faced real fear, real consequences. Let's change the scenario a fraction, and you'll get there before I finish the story, but just go with me anyway. Same situation, 10-story building, 10-foot gap, 10-story building. That building is now on fire. It's an inferno. You can feel the radiant heat. It's not burning you, but you can feel it. Now, who has a child or grandchild? Show of hands, please. Imagine that child or grandchild is now on that other 10-story building, and the only way to save that child's life is to walk across the plank, pick them up, and walk back. Who now walks across the plank? I rest my case. Love. What looks like courage is love in action. When you love someone or something enough, you will do what must be done regardless of the cost to you. That makes sense? That's all it is. That's why my wife and I, and a bunch of others in A1, just confidently move forward into the face of danger. We walk into the fire, we walk through the fire, and we come out the other side. Because our love for our families, our love for our country is so profound that we couldn't even live with ourselves if we didn't do this. When we mobilize that sort of love for this country, we cannot lose. We can only win because our adversaries don't have that quality. Make sense? Okay. Cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, Vanity asks the question, is it popular? Come on. But conscience asks the question, is it right? And there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, politic, or popular, but one must take it because it is right. Martin Luther King. Oop. And that's what we are. That's where we are. And you've already done that. By virtue of the fact you didn't get the jab, by virtue of the fact that you did not submit to their threats, by virtue of the fact that you walked into the flames and came out the other side means you already know that. You're ready for this. You're built for this. You've passed the selection process. You've got the job. Congratulations. Second pillar, your capability. Keyword wisdom. Definition. The power to achieve a goal when, where, and how you decide to do so. That's when you're capable. Pregnant with meaning. There's a lot in it. The components. The skill and the will. Skill and the will. Typo, my mistake. I'll take 40 lashes on the back with a frill neck lizard later. An American audience would look at me like this. What do you see? The skill and the will, the job and the people. Now the skill, you've got to know your job. You've got to know your job. You've got to know your job. The technical skills, you've got to know your job. But you've got to know the people too. And not just who works for you. Marie, she's married to John. They have 3 kids. They live in Upper Kumbukta West. Yes, you've got to know that. But you've got to know people, not just the people. A little bit of psychology. You don't have to be a psychologist, but you need to know a bit of psychology. So when a situation presents itself and something's happening, you don't react, but you respond with understanding. Makes sense? And what looked like a big problem wasn't. And you minimize that height of anger. The will. Now, I can do lots of things, skill level high, but do I want to do them? Nope. Am I going to do it? Nope. I have no will to do lots of things. So the will is key. And the will, and there's lots to it, but key to this is the locus of control. And locus is just the Latin word for place, the place of control. People with an internal locus of control believe they can affect their outcome by a conscious act of free will. Not entirely, because as Herodotus said, circumstances rule men, men do not rule circumstances, and we get that. But there are people with an external locus of control. There's nothing I can do, nothing I can do. I have to take the jab. I have to take the jab. I can't, I have to. External locus of control. Once again, you're good. Internal locus of control. Doesn't mean you don't make mistakes, doesn't mean that things change, but you know this. The reason I'm going through this with you is you have to impart this on others. This leadership gig is tougher than you think. It's a very soft, gentle art. There is a hard science to it, but most of it is a gentle art of leadership. That's funny coming from a colonel, isn't it? How much leadership did I exhibit during my time, my quarter of a century in the military? Occasionally. Mostly, though, it was just the lawful execution of authority. Do this, yes, sir. Is this a good plan? Brilliant, sir. Thank you. Then you get married and realize you're not so good. Nothing in the world can take place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination are omnipotent. There's a great line. That's Calvin Coolidge, 30th President of the United States. Persistence, persistence, persistence. Just keep going, just keep going. We have faced insuperable problems in A1, and yet we overcame them. We must, all of us here, over the next 3, 5, 10, 20 years, just keep moving forward. Quoting my favorite American philosopher, Rocky Balboa, let me tell you something you already know. Life ain't all rainbow and sunshine. It is a very mean and nasty place, and it'll beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody's going to hit as hard as life, but it's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, how much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you want, then go and get it, but you've got to be willing to take the hits. Persistence, persistence, persistence. It'll get us there, folks. And over the next 3, 5, 10, 20 years, when you're pulling your hair out saying, I've had a gutful, remember these words, persistence. Okay? The third pillar, your invention. Keyword faith, definition, to create something that has not existed before. And that's actually inaccurate. What we're actually discovering is what's already there, but somebody hasn't quite seen. Does that make sense? It's like mathematical formula. Nobody invents a new formula. They discover what underpins life on Earth and in the universe. Components of invention. Now, there's 3 types: evolutionary, revolutionary, accidental. Doing things better. Just a modest improvement, for example, propeller-driven aircraft and a jet-driven aircraft. Same principle, high-speed rotation of fans and fast air moving backwards. One just rotates through the air, the other has fans and injection of fuel ignite the fuel, shoots out a jet of hot air. But it's basically an evolutionary step. Revolutionary, solid fuel boosters on rockets. Light the fuse, boom, off it goes. Something new. Accidental, this is fun. There's a gentleman working for IBM who was trying to invent a super strong adhesive. Unfortunately, all he came up with was really weak adhesive. It was hopeless. You'd stick it on something and pull it off, it wouldn't even hold. One of his friends was a regular churchgoer, and he used to put slips of paper in his Bible to mark the various chapters and verses he needed to refer to. And he saw this weak glue and stuck it on the paper, stuck it in the Bible, and the piece of paper didn't fall out. And post-it notes were invented. And so what appeared to be a failure through a different pair of eyes created an entire industry. Keep your eyes out for it. Now, you don't have to be inventive. I'm not particularly creative. I can't come up with that sort of out-of-the-box idea. But when I was working in Special Ops, one of my jobs, I was the Director of Capability Development, which is basically future warfare. And I was lucky enough to have some extremely talented young officers, and I managed to marshal their talents, and we came up and solved a problem which nobody had solved previously and have yet to solve. This is predictive future capability requirements for uncertain futures. One of the guys flew to the UK on his own coin, went to the UK MOD, Ministry of Defence, showed them what we had, and we had basically 3 guys working quietly. I didn't tell the commander because I knew he didn't have to understand what we were doing. He showed them, and they said to him, we've had over 1,000 people working on this for 5 years. We haven't got as far as you had. We had 3 people working for about 6 months. It was a world first. Went to the US, went to US Space Command and showed them what we created. And they said, how much do we pay? We want it now. And what this system allowed you to do was examine 5 possible futures and position yourself to adapt, to be poised to any possible future. But you had the means, the parts here ready to go, whether it was personnel, doctrine, material, logistics, whatever it was. And you could reassemble it like a Lego kit and jump into whatever possible future you needed. That wasn't my doing. That was a really clever guys here. My job was to marshal their talents and create this system. You'll be pleased to know, of course, the Australian Defence Force took one look and shut it down. Never mind, we'll get it up one day. The progressive development of man is vitally dependent on invention. It is the most important product of his creative brain. Nikola Tesla. And for the Serbs in the audience, another Serb. See, we do more than just carry short knives and stab people. See, I can say that and not be called racist. I love it. Hey, dig into your own past. You might have access to a whole world of abuse. Okay. 4th pillar, their empowerment. See, up until now, it's been about you. Get your own house in order. You notice that? It's all about you. Everything flows once you get yourself sorted out. Wow, it's a lot easier than you think. It's also a lot harder than you think. Keyword love. Definition. Empowerment. The state of recognizing you are truly free. You are either free or a slave, and unless you see the whole truth for yourself, you'll never know which one you are. Hang on a minute. I thought empowerment was about putting them on the next course, how to pull a better beer or... No, they're the skills. That's part of it. But unless you actually understand that you are free to make a conscious decision of your own, you're never free. How many times over the last 2, 3, 4 years did you hear this? Oh, I had to. Oh, I had to get the jab. Yeah, why's that? Oh, I wanted to go to the pub with my mates. Oh, man, I hope it was worth it. They didn't have to. They made a choice. Now, you can come to the same conclusion and make the same decision, but if you say, oh, I had no choice, that's a lie. And you're a slave, and you'll remain a slave until you say to yourself, no, I decided it was worth the risk to get the jab, so I could continue working. Now, if it turns out to be a wrong decision, you accept and say, oh, well, I messed up. But these people tend not to take that responsibility. It takes a high level of maturity to own the result of your decisions. That's why so many people go, it was her fault. She did it. He did it. It wasn't me. Not my fault. Help me, please. You got to take responsibility for your decision, for good and for ill. Try not to make too many catastrophic ones, though. Components of empowerment. Away you go. Observation, perspective, and reframing. Notice what you notice, please. Ladies and gentlemen, this is probably the most powerful little bit of advice you'll remember tonight. Who notices what they notice? And if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. It took me forever to get it. Now, there's two ways to look at this. On this side, there's the biology of it. The biology is this. The human brain processes billions of bits of information a second. Consciously, though, we're aware of a few bits of information a second. So you're constantly seeing and assessing more than what's out there. You're just not consciously aware of it. So when you notice what you notice, and sometimes it almost feels like somebody's holding your head and then it turns. So you walk along and you find yourself like I did the other day, seeing the cigarette lighter by the stove. Now, I don't smoke, but I keep one there in case it doesn't light. I noticed that I noticed it, picked it up, put it in my pocket. 2 days later, I needed a lighter, which I wouldn't have otherwise had. Not a big deal, but it was just one of those things. If you notice what you notice and take action, and trust me, this is the most fun you'll ever have. It's extraordinary. Notice what you notice and take action. Another example, I'm at Coles doing the shopping. I look up, and there's a Mortein home pack for killing bugs with a long extended rod to get into difficult places. Now, we didn't have any infestations, and yet I noticed it, and I went, oh, okay, $32. Oh, God, I don't need that. 2 and a bit years later, we had a bee infestation in the house. Straight to the rescue. All done. Folks, trust me. Notice what you notice, take action. That doesn't include seeing the bird in the short skirt at the pub, gentlemen. That's noticing something else, which you should not take action. Now, perspective, right. Notice what you notice. Next, understanding from different angles. Stop, look at the situation, look at it from as many angles as you can, because guaranteed you'll see something that'll make you stop and think, oh, of course, okay, it's not as bad as I thought. Had that not happened, I would have been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Thank goodness I'm not. And it saves that reaction and you have a response, which is very different. And then you reframe. You choose a beneficial course of action with those new perspectives. If you do that, if you help people understand this process, your life is calmer and simpler. Their life is calmer and simpler. It's extraordinarily empowering. The other stuff like training courses, yeah, absolutely. But if you want to get to their soul, this is the way to do it. Their empowerment, keyword love. What does love look like? Now, bear this in mind over the next 3-5 years as we're trying to heal this nation, because it's going to be in unprecedented levels of pain. What does love look like? It has hands to help others. It has feet to hasten to the poor and needy. It has eyes to see misery and want. It has ears to hear the sighs and sorrows of men. That's what love looks like. St. Augustine of Hippo, theologian and philosopher. You'll be drawn to many disasters over the next few years, and you're going to need patience and love to help them through their problems. And as bad as you feel, it's nothing compared to what they feel. Imagine how a mum and dad might feel knowing their kids have myocarditis, now have AIDS. Fifth pillar, you. Key word, you. Definition, you are what you were created to be. Components of you. You have a body, but you are neither your appearance nor your physical prowess. You have a heart, but you are neither your emotions nor your reactions. You have a brain, but you are neither your thoughts nor your calculations. You have a mind, but you are neither your decisions nor actions. You have a soul, and you're a spiritual being having a human experience. Once you get that into your head. Now, I'm now talking to over 70% of the population, because 70% of Australians believe in a powerful intelligence outside space, time, energy, and matter, which is a pretty good definition of God. Pick whatever word you want, the universal source energy, it doesn't matter. Pick your own word. But 70% of Australians believe that. 20% aren't quite sure, and you've got 5 to 10% that are atheists. They are very loud, And they love screaming flying spaghetti monster stories. But most Australians believe this and they know it. And once you get that in your daily life, you understand you're a spiritual being having a human experience, and it's not about the thing that pissed you off 5 minutes ago. That's just an opportunity to grow and learn. Once you get that, your life settles down beautifully and you find out who you are. Every person's life is a story that is telling itself in the living. Major General Sir William Throsby Bridges, First Australian Chief of Staff. That's pretty smart for an old dottery general, isn't it? Each one of you is writing your life story every minute of every day. With every heartbeat and every breath you take, you're writing your story. And it's entirely up to you. That's the best part. You can't blame anybody. It's all yours. You own it. Every success, every failure. And when you get it and you realize you've got another day, make that day worth it. Make it an heroic day. And all of a sudden, you'll find yourself achieving things you never imagined you could do. Even if you didn't want to do it, you'll find yourself doing it. And you'll be inspiring others. There we go. We will create a new Australia. That's what we have to do, because the old Australia is exactly what created this mess. We aren't going back in time. Oh, I want to go back the way it was. Why? Are you kidding? Masonic filth running the place? You working like a madman to pay outrageous levels of tax, breaking your back for 50 years, watching everything that you've worked for evaporate? No, no, no. This is a new Australia. It's completely different. And we have to make it a new Australia simply because the old one led to this one. That's no good. We've got to start all over again. And we will. Because things do not happen, things are made to happen. JFK. That's him as a young lieutenant. He was the skipper of a PT boat, patrol torpedo boat, PT 109. Who's aware of that? Just show of hands. Who remembers the movie? Yeah. He was rescued by Australian coast watchers after they crashed, the boat was rammed by a Japanese destroyer and split in half. They floated for 12 hours. Eventually they were spotted by the local tribesman, the local Australian coast watcher from Z Special Unit, helped rescue JFK. JFK Jr. has a tattoo, and it's a Z with a dagger through it. That's a symbol of Z Special Unit, Australian Special Forces, World War II. When he comes to Australia, ask him to show it to you. Did I really say that? I think I'm in trouble. You are the heroes of Australia. In 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, your kids, grandkids, great-grandkids will look at the pictures of you and say, weren't they heroic? And you will be. Because you will do what has never been done by a nation in the history of the planet. You're going to rebuild this entire country from the scratch, and you'll be known as the greatest Australians that ever lived. Little old me? Yep. Little old you. Every single one of you. That's your future, if you want it. Your instruction manual. Now, I did want to put this up, but my wife told me to do it in that way that a husband cannot resist. Come on, men, you know what I'm talking about. Stop pretending you're in charge. If you liked what you heard tonight and you need to know more, and you do, because I still have to check it up every so often, this is your instruction manual. Now, don't blame me for this, blame my wife. She found it on the internet. You ready?
You can't touch this. You can't touch this. You can't touch this. You can't touch this.
I am now officially a meme. Okay, we've got a little time for questions. The mic will go around the room if you want to take a question.
Somebody need to put their hand up and I shall come running.
We don't have much, so if it's really important, go for it.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Hi, Ricardo. Pleasure to see you in person, and thank you for all you do. Thank you for all you do. My area of interest and my passion is disability. I'm a disability support worker, and what I see at the moment, I want to change. So after whatever needs to happen happens, I want to do something to rebuild this industry. Now I'm got no funds, I got nothing, but you and your book have also inspired me to actually better myself in the leadership part of it. What are the policy or something that Australia One has in this sector?
In the disability sector?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because at the moment it's just really.
Yeah, that's because it's not designed to help people. It's designed to suck money out of the system. It's a very good question. There's two major pillars to the recovery that we have to execute. One is financial and one is health. The financial, because that gives us the means to do whatever else we have to do. And the health is the second. Now, the health is going to cover physical, emotional, mental, psychological, and spiritual well-being. And we're not talking about medical. We're talking wellness, not illness, focusing on wellness. And so the model that we're going to be having is all the effort that goes into big pharma will be gone. And we will support all those billions of dollars that get shot over there will go into the examination of everything that we can possibly think of that might work for safety and efficacy. That includes from disabilities, from the diagnosis to the treatment and rehabilitation. But it takes people like you to sit there and say, here's what I think it should look like. Does that make sense? Because I can task somebody to come up with a detailed model and it won't be sufficient. And this is what I mean by harnessing the talents of 25.69 million Australians. So if you've got an idea of what a good model looks like, whether it's an overarching national approach, whether it's a state level or just a local community wellness approach, start designing it. You started, excellent. And run it past people. Yeah, round of applause, absolutely. Run it past others to see if they can add to it, and that does two things. It improves your plan and it gets buy-in from others, okay? And so just keep designing it, because then eventually somebody might say to you, look, we've got a few dollars, I want to help. And you'll say, well, we need to hire a centre so we can start this work, and it just starts to flow. Now, just to show you, there's a completely different way of looking at this. My good friend Jackie here lent me some books. Who's heard of Anastasia and the Ringing Cedars of Russia? Show, nice and high. Wow, that's a week ago. That'll do. An inch is as good as a mile, Franco. Anastasia, the Ringing Cedars of Russia is a remarkable series of books. It is almost too fantastic to be true, but it is true. And to show you how open-minded we are to examining even what seems to be unrealistic possibilities. There is I've got to test it for myself first, but our capacity to heal ourselves is greater than we understand. And nature is there to help us do it. To the point where, for example, if you suck a seed and let your saliva drop on it, then plant that seed in soil in which you have stood, the fruit from that tree will be optimized for your specific medical needs. How weird does that sound? Wow, exactly. You ever seen those ads on TV where they have the feet and all the toxins come out? Put this pad on your foot. That's what happens. You rub it on the soil where you're going to plant it, stick the seed in your mouth, look at the saliva, put it there, and the fruit that grows is actually designed for you specifically. How cool is that? Now, how expensive would health and wellness be in the future? It's as easy as walking out to your back garden and eating something. I tell you that story to let you know what's our policy. Our policy is to get rid of big pharma and look at wellness in all its forms and examine all those things that have been hidden from us for thousands and thousands of years. That makes sense? So what you have in mind is fantastic. Write it up, attract assistance, and away you go. Thank you.
Got another question for you over here, Ricardo, over near the door.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for all your help throughout the couple of years that I've been watching you. Just want to ask a question, what your policies on unemployment of the young people and bringing up new tradesmen coming up into the world?
Easy. Very, very easy. A couple of components to this, the stick and the carrot. Nobody should be able to survive on the public teat for more than a period of time. It's just the realistic bit of it. Now, everybody apparently wants to become a YouTuber and be worth $50 million in the first 2 years of their employment out of school, which they left at age 13. Compare that to the Chinese youth. Their goal is to be an astronaut. And our youth want to smoke drugs and be YouTubers. This is a multifaceted problem, but there are a couple of approaches that we're going to do with this. We're going to rebuild our industry. We're going to build our own ships. We're going to train our own sailors. We're going to train our own medical staff. We're going to train everything from scratch. We're rebuilding the entire setup. Now, initially, that'll be initiated by, for example, our militarily intimidating policy. Why is that? Because we must be self-sufficient, self-reliant. We build our own ships. So we're going to have shipyards and everything that comes with it. Within the military, you'll get a trade. Because what happened was, back in the mid-80s, somebody decided that the teeth-to-tail ratio, right, for every shooter, there were too many in the logistics end. It was one shooter and 10 loggies, logistics. Didn't matter what it was. Some genius businessman said, you know, let's outsource all of this and just pay somebody else to do it, and we'll have lots of shooters. Great, except for one small problem. And whether you agree with wars or not, that's not the point. During the Gulf War, I can't remember one or two, I can't remember, it doesn't matter. We were trying to get stuff across the Middle East, and we had to wait in line for the one Antonov, a Russian transport aircraft that could get our stuff there. All our logistics services are run by Serco, which is a private corporation owned by one of the British royal family. So your billions of dollars is going into their pocket to no benefit. How about we spend money training our people? Now imagine you've got a defence force where you get in for 4 years, you get a trade, and then you're on your way. Does a couple of things. Imagine an entire nation that's spent a few years in the military, they're disciplined, they know how to get out of bed, they know how to make their bed, they know how to turn up on time and do their job. And so it's going to be so attractive because they won't have to pay a cent for it, whether it's a degree or a trade, and hopefully more trades, whether it's a butcher or a carpenter, makes no difference. We're going to take care of all of this stuff ourselves, so it'll be dual role. It adds to our self-reliance as a military nation. And believe you me, even when the kumbaya moment comes and, you know, the second coming of Christ, there's still going to be bad people out there that want what we've got. And we still have to do it. At the risk of being rude, that's true. And so that's one way. We're going to build our industry and every aspect of our industry up. And the trades that we get, we're going to produce a disciplined, intelligent, motivated men and women to then populate the country. So imagine this kid goes out, gets a butcher's trade. He does butchery in the armed forces for a few years, gets out, goes to his hometown, because we're going to grow the township. We're going to repopulate the rural areas, and now you've got a bunch of kids with trades, and he sets up his butcher shop back in Upper Kumbukta West. And so there's this whole approach. And again, being a lazy sod, I don't like having one policy with one result. I want one policy that affects 15 outcomes. And so that's what we're going to do. So carrot and stick. Sorry, folks, you want to be a billionaire? Go work for it. By the same token, we're going to help you do that. Okay?
Hello, Glenda Merritt here. How you going? The EBS that's coming soon. I heard the Philippines has already tapped into the quantum financial system. So is it switched on? We're waiting for that EBS to generate it. Is it coming?
Yeah, I've heard what you've heard. We know that, what's his name? Charlie Ward. Charlie Ward advised the world a day ago that the QFS had been switched on 48 hours earlier, so we're 72 hours into it. That's the financial safety net that was placed under our system because, as you know, if the financial system crashes, the bad guys win. So they put a safety net underneath, so when it drops 6 inches and there's no big deal. And so your savings are safe, your dollars are safe. Your super may not be, depending on what you've invested it in. If it's in the stock market, not so smart, maybe. Not that I'm giving financial advice, you can't do that. Yeah, smart. But the QFF apparently is up and running. We know that for the banks, 4 months have been working new systems. Whether they knew what they were doing or not, I can't say. As for the EBS, the emergency broadcast system, it has been tested in Spain. I think you might have already seen that as well out there. Allegedly, and this is all allegedly, there's going to be a lockdown. And as we said for the last long time, it's going to appear to be a black hat lockdown, but it's actually a white hat lockdown for your safety. You will allegedly get 3 hours notice to get back home and stay there. So have you got your food and water and gas? Have you got your food, water and gas for your neighbours that don't have their food, water and gas? Be prepared, folks. But it may not last that long. It may not last that long. But it's a case of keep off the streets while the Masonic filth and others are taken to the spa. Apparently, we've already got some people at the spa. You haven't been told about it, but we'll find that out, I guess. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ricardo. Given there's been a lot of corruption in politics in the past, with the recent resignations of David Elliott and Brad Hazzard, what can we all do to make this country a better place for us to live?
Well, if I were you, I'd choose a political party that's got a recall election as part of their platform. And I mean that sincerely, because if this catches on, the other parties will have it too. And it doesn't matter whether you vote for us or not. That's not the point, but pick one. And in terms of making this place better, and corruption particularly, we will be having various investigations into unexplained wealth for any politicians, bureaucrats, admirals, armed, you get it, down to local councillors. But more importantly, in the long term, demand a recall election system like we have. If you remember the Liberal, Labor, National, Greens, I feel sorry for you, but at least write to them and say we want a recall system, recall election, meaning that at any point during the term of office, if 50% plus one people in the electorate want you gone, you're out of a job, which means you get to sack them throughout the period of their election rather than waiting for every 3 or 4 years, because they ignore you and then they come back 3 or 4 years later and say, vote for me again. This way, they are responsive to you 24/7, 365 for the period of that seat. Do you understand? So, in answer to your question, make sure the sovereignty issues that you feel you deserve are part of their platform. Right now, let me think about, I'll tell you how many parties have actually got this way. One. Okay, thank you.
Hello. So my question is, you've mentioned a constitutional convention in our hopefully near future. How can we start getting into the mind frame of thinking about what we want our country to look like? And can you recommend any resources? And I have a second question.
Hang on, let me do that one first. Yes, I can. Thank you. Yeah, you'll get your second question, no problem. The constitutional convention that we have to have is not like the 1999 one where the politicians put it up and said, pick A, B, or C. No. Because if the pollies like it, you won't like it, promise. So what you've got to do, what we will do is we'll have an educative process first to bring everybody up to speed of what components should be included in a constitution that is for the good of the people. That's point number one. So we'll have this educative process. We'll be using the new ABC. We get rid of the Bolshevik collective. And then a lot of those channels evaporate because broadcasters should not compete with commercial entertainment. It should be there to provide information, history, things like that. So we're going to use all the ABC pipes, so to speak, the distribution pipes, to assist with everything you can possibly imagine. Homeschooling and information and documentaries at a primary, secondary, tertiary and adult level. Part of that will be part of the process for informing people of the Constitution, the educative process. In the meantime, and thank you, you've got to be on the front foot with this. I highly recommend you go to Hillsdale College. It is a US college, and they have free online courses, 10 episodes apiece, generally 30 to 40 minutes each. There is one on the founding of the United States and their Constitution and the elements of the Constitution. It is an excellent primer for what you need to understand. So Hillsdale College, register, get online, and you can watch them. And it has a full range of these online courses, 10 episodes each, covering from the Constitution to literature to Western civilization. All of them will add to your understanding about the nation we wish to create. It is profoundly important, so please get onto that and watch them. With the Constitution, for example, you'll understand why. Now, our Constitution is called the Westminster one because it's part Westminster and part Washington. Our founding fathers were quite clever. They tried to get the best of both, but it was neither fish nor fowl. Does that make sense? So that's why it's so inadequate, certainly for life in the 21st century. And so you've got the tension they intentionally built into the system, into the United States, and they mimicked here. For example, the terms of senators in the lower house are out of kilter because they found during their first confederacy, before they had the actual constitution, that if a political entity could change directions quickly, it was subject to the whims of passion. And so what they found was you've got to force the system time. It's like turning around a large vessel. And how long does it take to do a U-turn on a large vessel at full tilt? How many kilometers? How many nautical miles? Okay, 2.5 nautical miles to do a U-turn in a large vessel at full tilt. The institutes of the organs of state have to have that same drag, because if it changes too quickly, nothing gets done. And so you've got, for example, you'll understand if you do this, if you listen to this program, you'll understand why the Senate and the lower house is out of kilter in terms of not only the length of their term, but also the elections, because it takes time. And you'll understand that rather than saying, why don't we just have one election where everyone gets elected? The Americans cocked up with their confederation, and we should learn from it. So Hillsdale College, sign up. They're magnificent. It is such a resource. It is, in fact, one of our goals is to get, and I haven't spoken to Larry P. Arn, who is the president of Hillsdale. It's a bit presumptuous just yet, but in time, when I might have a status more befitting the request, I'll ring him up and say, Larry, we want a Hillsdale in every state in Australia. Okay, second one.
Microphone's back over here now, so that's not going to work.
Oh, we got to go.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time.
Okay.
So I would just like to say, ladies and gentlemen, we do have some time limitations on us tonight. So unfortunately, that's the end of the questions that will go live. But if you would all like to wander out through those doors, Ricardo will be available for about 30 minutes or so to have a bit of a chat. I'll pop out if you want to meet me or say good day or whatever. I would like to thank you all for coming tonight. It is amazingly important that you come and visit us. We get to know you, you get to know us, because it is our community we're building, and hopefully we're all going to be seeing each other a lot further in it. Can I ask you to put your hands together for the man who should be leading this country? I would also like to thank the Galactic Larrikins, Mark, who's over there, Rob, who's on the main camera, and the man who used to have a lot of hair until tonight, Bradford, who's been pushing the buttons, and everything you're seeing online is due to him. So thank you very much to the Galactic Larrikins. I couldn't do what I do without you. The Voice of Freedom will be back again tomorrow from the Sydney airport, and at some stage, Tasmania tomorrow afternoon. So thanks for coming, folks. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Ruck.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!